Searched every building and home that I found. I saw no shadow, but felt the glow. The warmth inside me, it kept me afloat. It felt like heaven had found my bones and gave me comfort when I feel alone. Now you're gone, I'm alone. I guess it's time to get better. Through the pain, I will go alone. If I fall, break my bones, I will scream even louder. 'Cause I'm not dying alone. I lost my best friend to 23. She left her body and hovered above me.
Okay, welcome to the SG webinar series. I hope many people are actually looking forward to this webinar tonight. Together with me today, we have Dr. Sourish from RAx.io. How are you, Dr. Sourish?
I'm doing very good. Thank you, Anita.
Okay, thank you for doing this today. We have actually talked about, RAx few months ago, I believe, and a lot of people are really trying to use RAx, right? But today's perspective or today's conversation is about making them understand, the feature of RAx, and I believe that not many people actually, maybe they have tried, using the free trial. But what we want them to know is what are the feature of RAx, which is also our research assistants that can help us boost our research productivity. I'll pass it over to you, and maybe if you want to share your slide.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thank you so much, Anita, for giving this kind introduction. And thanks everyone who are watching and or who will be watching later. And I hope everybody is very safe and very okay. So keep yourself safe. So let's dig into the my material. Let me share my screen. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a different perspective, because what I see that a lot of people are using RAx, but they're not actually using RAx to the full power that RAx actually can give them. So essentially they're using some sort of like half of it, or maybe 25% of what RAx can actually give them. So today I'm going to actually make it easy for you to understand what are the different ways in which you can use RAx. And the topic is about how to boost your research productivity in the context of speeding up your literature survey, right? So research opportunity kicks off from good papers. When you're reading good, when we all know that when we read good papers, that's the point when actually we get to see a lot of research gaps and a lot of research opportunities. So the more we read good papers, the more we will be able to come up with original and significant ideas, right? So, but then if you look at literature review or literature reading or literature survey, you see that what we are talking about is we are talking about critical reading, or very deep level critical reading. Because you see, interestingly, the deeper you go when you are reading a very good paper, the higher quality research you can get out of it, right? But then if you look at literature review itself, I like to separate it into four phases, four different levels, or four different phases of literature review. So the very first level, which I call as level 0, I call it surface exploration. So surface exploration is the very beginning of literature review. And what do you do? What do we do in that stage? We are primarily focusing on how to decide what to read, and how to prioritize our reading list and reprioritize our reading list, and to figure out what are the good papers that we should invest our time on, right? So that's the beginning, that's the prerequisite. If you don't, that's the start. Then the level one is that level of critical reading, which is what we call as reading comprehension, which means that you are trying to understand a particular paper very clearly, what the paper has to say, all the different aspects of the paper, the research question, the approach that the authors are taking, the way the experiment has been designed. You are trying to understand each and every single parts and pieces of the paper. That's level one. Level two is exploratory reading. That's the, you go a little deeper, as you can see in the funnel, right? So it becomes more deeper, more narrow. And then at level two, what you're doing is, while you are reading a paper, now you want to explore more other such papers which are related to certain aspects of that paper, right? So as you are reading, you're focusing on particular paper. I'm reading this paper and I want to know, okay, what are all the other kinds of paper that are related to certain aspects of that paper, right? That's exploratory reading. So you're reading, but at the same time you are also exploring. It's a very interesting thing, and that's exactly what we do. When we are reading, we have come, a lot of new questions come up, and our and then we go and we try to search for those things elsewhere, and so on and so forth. So that's level two. Level three, which is the deepest level of critical reading, that's which is what we call as comparative reading, which means now whatever we are reading, we now want to compare and contrast and connect with what we have already read in the past, right? Because that's where the final research begins. Because if you're not comparing and contrasting all the time, you wouldn't be able to clearly see where the research gap is, where are the research opportunities, where you can contribute, and so on and so forth. So you have to go very, very deep level and try to figure out how certain aspects of the one paper that you are reading, how that compares with all the other papers that you have that are there in your collection, that you might have read some 2 months back, some, let's say, 7 months back, or even 1 year or 5 years back, right? And now that is the most difficult level. But then that is the level where actually you start coming up with very, very solid and interesting ideas.
Yes,
right?
sorry, Dr. Sourish, can I say something about this?
Yeah,
Do you know
sure.
what? This has been the problem for many postgraduates, where they don't even know what level
Exactly.
they are, and then they don't even know the process of flow of reading, which brings to
Right.
writing later. And I'm so glad that you show us this, because this will actually give us, so this is where I am, and this is what I need to do
Exactly.
next. Okay, so I go ahead, continue. Oh, this is so interesting.
Interestingly, what I'm going to show you is that at every level, you can, depending upon what level you are in right now, you can use RAx accordingly. So RAx actually can help you at each one of these 4 levels. And this is what I'm going to show you today. But then there is a very interesting paradox. The paradox is, this is another funnel. And the other funnel is that we are, if we have to do critical reading, deep critical reading, we are essentially fighting against volume, velocity, and time, because there's so much to read out there. And every month or every 2 months, there's so many new papers coming up all the time. And we don't have time. It's not that, when we are doing research, we are only reading. We have to run our experiments, conduct field studies, so many other things, right? And there are other things also in life apart from doing the research. So we are always constantly fighting against time. So now if you look at it from that point of view, you see that a lot of times, the papers keep piling up, and we want to read all of those papers, but we are not able to read them. We are not even able to touch. As an example over here, our, the surveys that we did, and the other data that we found, that roughly 64% of researchers end up not even touching 70% of their collection. And that's just what is there in the collection. The collection itself is just tip of the iceberg, because there are so many papers out there that are not even in the collection. And even within the collection, within the folder, you are not even touching 70% of that. And that happens. And it's purely because that we are fighting this battle. Now, this is what is the funnel paradox. So you have to, on the left-hand side, you have to go deeper down in and dig deep. And, if you really want to get something, wow, as a research idea, you have to dig deep. But if you dig deep, you run the risk of not exploring, because you're taking more time to read one paper, right? A single paper. So you run the risk of not exploring all the other papers that are out there. So that's the paradox, right? So we will see how you can solve this paradox with RAx. We all know critical reading is draining. You need to focus a lot, you need to concentrate a lot, and especially if you're very new, then it can be very, very draining, right? So this is where this is the thesis of RAx. This is what RAx is trying to give you. Critical reading can be made really, really fast. That's the point. That's the entire crux of RAx. So level 0, let's start with level 0. What are you trying to do in this stage? You're trying to decide and prioritize what to read next, right? So let's see how you can do that in RAx. Usually, what do you do? Usually you would either look at the methodology, whether the methodology is original or novel. This is a survey that we did. Many people said that whether the methodology is new to you or not. Many people decide on the basis of whether the results are interesting, which means whether the results are counterintuitive, or whether they are better than the best so far, or whether they are new, right? Many people decide on that factor. Many people decide in terms of whether the methodology is similar to what they are thinking or they are designing, right? And then there is a bunch of people who take a decision on the basis of looking at the research goal or the research question themselves, right? And that is basically the abstract. You would find the entire research question very well described in the abstract. But when it comes to the methodology, or when it comes to the experiment design, and so on and so forth, you don't find everything in the abstract. So what we saw is that not everybody is deciding what paper to read just on the basis of the title and the abstract. It's only during certain situations when you do that. But in other situations, abstracts are not good enough. That's what we saw, right? So how to do it? Usually if you talk to your supervisor or your seniors, they would prescribe you something like this. So you first go and you first put a threshold, like okay, this is below this impact factor or something like that. I am not going to choose journals which are below this impact factor, right? Or there are other kind of metrics like SJR or H-index ranking and so on and so forth. So please do consult your advisor on this, because every discipline has should have their own threshold. Not every discipline has,
Yeah,
right?
I think that's really a great advice. I think a lot of postgraduate students, talk to their advisor, to the supervisor for this, right? But I think step 0 is really important, because we want to pick only selected articles which are totally relevant, right? Otherwise, you'll be totally swamped. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Right. And then you need to ask yourself this question in step 1: does the title relate to my work? Then in step 2, does the abstract say something new that I haven't read before, right? And then step 3, does the conclusion claim some really intriguing or interesting results or findings, right? So these are the 5-minute recipe, right? So the moral of the story, as you can see from this survey, that in different situations you are trying to decide from different, using different parameters. You're not always looking at the abstract and deciding it, right? So that is the point, which means that you wear different hats in different situations. And that's why we need a one-place platform. So this is, if for people who are yet to find RAx, so you have, you need to type in rax.io. This is the landing page. Currently, as of now, it's a completely SaaS platform, it's completely online. We are going to come up with a whole desktop version of it also, and a mobile version of it that is kind of installable. And 75% of RAx you should be able to work on that even if there is no internet. So that's in the process. We are developing that, right? But as of now, currently, it's completely online, right? So the entire RAx journey, your RAx journey begins from something what we call as RAx projects. So it's like just like any other research project. So you can create a research project and you can add your collaborators if you are doing it collaboratively, or you can do solo also, and you can have multiple research projects going on at the same time, right? Just like how the screen shows, right? Then inside the research project, every project is structured in terms of, on the left hand side, you see literature, which is the reading list, your reading list, right? The papers that you would read or you are collecting. The drafts, which is while you are reading, new interesting ideas will come up, new questions will come up, new kind of experiment setup ideas experiment design ideas will come up, new methodologies will come up, and all of those things are your working notes. It's sort of your working notes. So it's always there with you while you are reading. As you get new ideas, you can immediately start jotting them down, so that it doesn't vaporize later on, right? So that's why there are drafts. Then whatever you are doing in while you are reading, all the different activities that you would do, including highlighting and note taking and sharing with somebody, and we will see all of that thing. Even exploring, in exploratory reading, exploring other kind of materials, every single little thing that you are doing, RAx is actually looking at what actually you need right now. What are you interested right now? What kind of topic you are interested right now? What kind of aspect of the research you are interested right now? And then every time, every 4 or 5 hours, it actually tries to detect that and suggest more papers according to your activities that's going on in this project. So every project has its own independent, separate suggestions, right? That is completely adapted to how you are behaving, how you are, how your attention is moving from one thing to the other thing, right? And that's why it learns you, and it also unlearns, in the sense that what you are not interested anymore, let's say you were interested in it a month ago, but you're no more interested in those topics anymore, it will unlearn that immediately, and it will follow you in terms of what you are interested right now, right? So it will no more show those things if you're no more interested in that. It automatically does that,
and
right?
sorry just to mention this, and I think that's kind of the feature that we want, right? Meaning if we are totally not wanting to read about, for example, one subchapter, and then it won't come to us, right?
Right.
And then we just focus. So I think the best idea is for students to talk to their supervisors on the scope or the objective of the research, right? So that we are all focused. Isn't that a good idea?
Right.
To decide with the supervisor, right, for the reading list.
Right, absolutely. And let's say that your supervisor, gives you 4 or 5 papers to read. Let's say these are the 4 or 5 papers in the screen, as you can see. Let's say the supervisor recommends you that. So now one way of deciding and prioritizing what to read first and what to read next is actually, and this is, by the way, Anita, this is a new feature. Whenever you upload a paper, like from here, add literature, and you can upload a paper from your computer folder. You can upload a paper by just putting a PDF URL. You can upload a paper from, even connect it from your reference manager, whatever is your .bib or .ris file. You can upload a paper from there. or you can actually use our RAx Chrome web importer, and you can just immediately pull papers from Google Scholar or PubMed or even Mendeley or Zotero, and you can pull that list and bring it over here immediately, right? So that these are the ways in which you can populate this reading list, right? So once you populate the reading list, RAx automatically detects what's the title, what's the abstract, what's where it has been published, and so on and so forth. And then it gives you something very interesting. It immediately figures out how many people cited this paper which you added, and then you can sort according to the citations. And that is one way of deciding and prioritizing, right? So you can sort over here according to the citation counts, and then you can, read the paper, or you can put a timer over here. You see this small icon over here? You can put a reminder or a timer saying that, okay, Monday, next Friday, whatever that is, I want to read this paper. So you can do that. That's one interesting way in which you can actually sort it according to the citation and then put a reminder over here, right? Another thing that you can do is, let's say that your supervisor gave you 4 or 5 papers. Now, how to make sure that you get more good papers? So what you can do is you can click on this citation count over here, click on the count, and then this will come up on the right, which means these are all the papers that cited this particular paper, this first paper. So these are all the different papers that cited this paper. And then what you can do, you can choose which paper to read, and you can add it again to your reading list, add to literature, like this. And it comes, and this is how you are always enriching your reading list over here only. You can also go to references, and these are the references that you find in this paper. In the end of the paper, you have the bibliography, right? The references. So you can also go to references, and then again, you click on it, and again, all the references will come over here. And again, you can do the same thing for that as well. You can add the papers that, so these are different ways in which we usually, add more papers. Now, you see how easy it becomes, over here. You can easily get that so easily, and so easily put it back over here as well, right? So that's another very quick way in which you can select what else needs to be reviewed, right? Another way of deciding, yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. I was just looking at the layout. I think it's very user friendly because we can see everything in one page, right? Okay, go ahead.
Right. Everything in one place. Another way in which we decide, which is a very typical way of deciding, is through abstracts, right? So what you can do is you can hover your mouse, bring your mouse, and then you will suddenly see this abstract coming up over here. The moment you hover on any one of the papers, abstract will come, right? And you click on the abstract, and then this will pop up like a pop-up on over here only. The abstract will pop up, and you will also find the figures and the tables as well over here. And then there is a horizontal scroll. I've not shown over here, but you can do a horizontal, just like scrolling from left to right or right to left, to navigate across all the papers that are there in this reading list. So it's very easy to quickly figure out which one to read, which one not to read, and so on and so forth. So you can decide and prioritize very quickly on the literature list only, just by putting on the abstract. And it's very nice and clear, nicely designed in terms of, very clear in terms of reading the abstract and deciding whether you want to do that or not, read it further or not. That's another way, a very common way of deciding. The third way of deciding, and this is something which is very, very interesting. The third way of deciding and prioritizing is, there's a button over here called summarize. So, but then it's not just any other kind of summary, but what it does is that if you click on the summarize button, it does a section-wise summary. So what it does is, it summarizes every section of the paper. and does not leave any one of the sections, but it gives you a brief of every section of the paper. And why did we do it that way? Because we found that a lot of people, let's say that you are reading this paper, right? And I am also reading this paper. But for you, you might be more interested in, let's say, the theoretical results section. And you might want to decide whether to read the paper or not by looking into that section. While for me, maybe I am in an early stage of my research, and I might want to decide by reading the introduction. Quickly reading the introduction, which is a summary, a very short part of the introduction, the key aspects of the introduction, and then decide whether to read the paper or not. So which means that nobody is losing out. Nothing is getting lost in the summary, right? So the fear of missing out is no more there. So you choose which section you want to, you click on that section and that part will come up. Like, somebody might look at the algorithm and might want to choose just on the basis of the algorithm. And then figure out, okay, do I want to read this paper or not? And why this is important? Because as you remember, in the previous slide I showed you, a lot of people actually try to choose in terms of the methodology. They want to see whether the methodology is new or whether the methodology is similar to what they are thinking, and so on and so forth. So this is very, very quick way in actually getting to the method or that particular section or the results and trying to figure that out very, very quickly, right? So that's another way. But will that 5 minutes be enough? No, it's not going to be enough. If you just keep reading abstracts and do this thing, decide and prioritize is the first step. That's level 0. But then you need to start reading the paper, right? That's level 1. And the first thing is you need to understand the paper, but you cannot just spend a lot of time just understanding the paper. So you have to understand the paper quite quickly, right? So that's level 1. So now let's see how RAx can help you in level 1. So comprehensive reading, we all know, can be pretty long. And one way of understanding a paper, we all know, is we first try to understand the key concepts. So what we do over here is that if you click on this reading list, any paper in the reading list, if you click on the paper, the reading room, we call it the reading room, this will open up. This page is going to open up with the paper, right? And then what you do, you select that particular concept. Let's say I'm not able to understand, I don't know what inverse reinforcement learning is. I want to know more about it, or I have forgotten it, or I want to have a recap of it, or this is for the first time I'm seeing this, right? So I will select this with my mouse, select this, and then this will pop up the moment I select it. Then I go to other resources, click on other resources, and then I have all these complementary resources, which will help me to understand. Remember, these are not things that you should refer when you're writing a paper. These are there for you to understand something very, very quickly, because these are light reads. These are easy to read and easy to understand. So as an example, I can click on Wikipedia and all the wiki articles related to this will come up. I can click on similarly lectures and videos, all the top-notch conferences, workshops, seminar. We keep recording those things, like in thousands and thousands of such things. And every day we record them. So light reads, which means top-notch magazines like Scientific American, Nature, and so on and so forth. So we keep indexing them as well every day. So then if you click on, let's say, Wikipedia, if you click on Wikipedia, then there's something called staple. As you can see, staple. Now, if you click on staple, something very interesting happens. When you click on the staple button, that article gets stapled like a sticky note with that concept. So now it's so easy that you can actually come back to that concept, click on this orange annotation, and then this attachment will come up over here. You can immediately see this attachment. When you click on it, you can see this. And it's not just one thing. You can attach multiple things with the same concept. So now what has happened It's, you're not gathering materials which are disconnected completely with the paper which you are trying to understand. So what you are using, what will help you to understand, is tightly attached with the paper that you are trying to understand. So that's something which is very, very unique in RAx. And that is something that usually we keep collecting so many things that it starts getting lost. And we don't have the right references to get back very easily, right? So, see, in a similar manner, you can do the same thing for video lectures, and uh, you can do the same thing, staple. Now, a very interesting thing that you can do for understanding a paper is when you have to not just a concept, but you want to understand an argument that is being made by an author, let's say, author of this paper. So what we have is we have something called Key Insights, which is just sitting next to the literature. So you click on Key Insights. What Key Insights does is that it automatically dissects the paper into these different types of arguments. Like, what's the research goal? What's the presumption or the assumptions made in the paper? What's the possible originality? What's the methodology? What's the limitations discussed by the authors? What's the evaluation method? What's the observation? What's the analysis? And so on and so forth. And it adjusts to the discipline, which means that if you come from a different discipline and if the paper is from a different discipline, these things will maybe very different, because the narratives, the arguments are quite different, right? So and then what it does is that it collates all of this together into one place. Like, all the research goals, everything that is related to research goal will be over here. Everything that is related to assumptions will be all compiled over here. So it's kind of like compiling everything, which are kind of probably scattered across the entire paper. Now what you can do, how to understand. Let's say that I want to understand the assumption. So I can quickly go into this assumptions or presumption place. I can quickly go over there instead of having to figure out from the paper where is the assumption. Otherwise, what will I have to do? I have to again read the entire paper, go every page and try to figure out, and maybe mark it somewhere. But over here, RAx does it for you. So I can immediately go over here. Again, I can select that particular thing that I want to understand. This will pop up in the same way. Again, I click on other resources and maybe I pick up lectures and videos, and then again I can staple. It gets stapled over here. Same thing. But now you are doing it in a very different way. You're trying to understand the key arguments very, very quickly over here. So this is a really, really interesting way and very easy way and quick way of understanding the key arguments, right? Now comes the deeper level. We are going deeper now, which is exploratory reading. And what is the purpose of exploratory reading? You're trying to find opportunities now. So while reading one paper, you're trying to find what are the other opportunities, right? So what you do is, one way of doing it, you quickly explore other research around the paper. So you go to, on your right, there will be something called explore related. So you go to explore related, and then there are these two things for now. What you can do, one is related research. So you go and click on related research. You can click on related research. Another thing is survey papers. This is a really, really good way of understanding what's going on around this paper, and then to figure out what else you can do. So you can click on survey papers also. And then once that happens, let's say research papers, all the different research papers which are related to this paper. So then what you can do is, all these papers will come up, and then you can either attach it to this paper and it goes into an attachment. Again, the same reason that you don't want to lose the context. You don't want to, otherwise you will soon forget what is the relationship between this paper and this paper. So that connection has to be there. So that's why you attach it with this paper. Or if you think that this is a paper that you want to review, do a proper review, do a thorough reading, then you add to literature. But then when you do add to literature, it also gets attached. So it is like attach and add to literature. So when you do add to literature, it gets attached, but is also gets added to the literature, right? So that's the interesting thing, that you can either only attach or you can do this thing, right? And again, why this has been given to you? Because you have to organize the related papers as attachment. This is a wonderful thing that happens, which if you go elsewhere, if you look at all the different search engines and all of those things, you can search it over there and all of that, but it's disconnected. It's completely disconnected with the people that, for which you actually explored those papers, right? Now comes
I
the final.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry. I can see the flow that you are showing. Yeah, while we are reading, we are actually organizing our thoughts, and that is
right,
the most complex process that postgraduate have to do every day. So I can't thank you enough, because I think that thought flow has to be made transparent. And imagine if we can share this with our supervisor, then our supervisor can
right,
actually see, this is where you're going, rather than
right.
just not knowing anything to show, just on a piece of paper, right? So, okay, go ahead, continue.
Right. So now the final part, which is comparative reading, which is finding the gaps. So you actually did finding opportunities. Now you are going to see how you can find the gaps. Okay. So what you can do is, one way is, let's say that I am reading this paper. Now I'm going deep inside this paper. And let's say this is the algorithm. And I want to know, okay, let me see, are there other papers? What are all the other papers that have a very, very similar or related algorithm? So what I will do, I will go and select that section that interests me. And again, this will pop up. But now I will click on research papers over here, which are related to your selection. Research papers that are related to this selection, to this part, to this narrative, to this idea, or to this part of the algorithm. And then when I click on it, all these papers will pop up over here, right? Which are related to this part. Then I can view more over here, and now I can see like this. This will pop up. This abstract will pop up over here of the paper, and I can actually now have a clear, comparison and understanding of, okay, all right. So this is what this says, and this is what this paper says, and then based on that, I may want to again staple it with over here this paper with this section, or I may want to staple and add to it literature list to my reading list. If I want to actually review this paper in details, I can do both, any one of them, right? So then, and again, when I staple or when I staple and add, again that it gets attached like an orange annotation over here, like a sticky note over here. So that's again the way in which you can now organize also, as you compare and analyze how specific aspects of this paper is related to all the other papers that are not there in your collection yet. So it's very easy way of bringing those papers inside your collection, right? A very fast way of doing the same thing, is by using the key insights. So what you do, let's say you go to the approach section of the key insight, you go to possible originality. Let's say I'm interested in originality and I'm trying to understand, okay, to what extent this is original, or to what extent, what are all the other papers that are related to what this guy is saying as original. So what I would do, I will select this particular section, click on research papers, all these things will come up, and do the same thing, either staple or staple and add to literature, and this gets stapled over here.
Sorry, Dr. Sourish, your slide is currently at level 3. Are you showing us the insights?
Yeah, so this is level 3.
Right. Okay. Yeah,
Okay,
I thought.
so the first way of doing it is by doing it on the paper and then clicking on research papers on specific sections or specific aspects of the paper that you're interested in and you want to know more about how other papers are related to this section. Is my slide visible? The title of the slide is Compare and Analyze How Specific Subpaper Are Related.
Yeah, I can see your slide, but it's there at level 3. Are you not showing the features in RAx? If you
Oh,
can
okay.
move your,
Then maybe it just stopped. Maybe
I think so. So if I can remove
maybe
and
I
then
can
you
maybe I can
reshare,
stop and reshare.
yeah,
I can stop sharing and
stop and
reshare.
reshare. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I've removed it. Yeah, it happens sometime because when the
Right.
connection is
Right.
not that great. Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
Because I
Then
think so
reshare.
far, yeah, so far we can understand the flow, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's where we are.
Okay. So this was the previous slide,
Mm.
level 3, and then
Uh-huh.
this is the one.
Mm.
Okay,
Okay.
so what we are doing over here, you're trying to figure out what are all the other papers that are out there that I don't know about or I don't have in my collection, which are related to this approach or this algorithm or this part of this aspect of the algorithm, this technique maybe. I mean, it can be, I'm giving you an example algorithm, but it can be anything. It can be an experiment, it can be a data set, it can be, a protocol, right? It can be a particular perspective or a particular fact or a particular observation, right? It can be anything. And I can select that particular section and click on research papers over here. This will pop up. And then again, I will see all the papers over here which are related to this section. And then I can click on view more. These abstracts of this thing will pop up. And again, I can do horizontal scrolling and go through all the results and then figure out to what extent they are related. And then if I think that I should read this paper in details, I would do staple and add to list. Otherwise, I would just say staple and it gets stapled like that orange annotation. It gets stapled with this section. So now you're no more just stapling, you're no more just attaching one paper to another paper, you're attaching the section of one paper with another paper. So that's the interesting part that's happening over here. But an easier way, a faster way, is you do the same thing but with key insights. So you go to the specific aspect of the paper. Let's say I am more interested in the approach's originality. And now I want to look into what are all the other papers that are related to the originality. And then again, I select this section. This will pop up. Click over here, do the staple and add to list, depending upon what you want to do. And that comes over here, that gets attached again, the orange as an orange annotation sticky note, it gets attached over here. So it's a very, very easy way, a quicker way of actually getting to the point, right? Now comes the final one, which is quickly compare and contrast within your own collection. So this happens a lot, we call it, a lot of, we call it, there's a word for it called deja vu. What it means is that when I'm reading this, maybe I'm reading this thing and I was like, wait a minute, I have read something like this back in some paper. I'm not able to remember which paper, or I don't know. I have to again go through all the papers and figure out which paper I have read this. Or maybe, you just want to just double check whether there is something related to this technique, let's say, in all the papers that you have in your entire collection. So what you do, select this section, then there is something called compare from your collection. Click on it. When you click on it, all these things will pop up from your collection. And it's not just the papers that are there in your collection. Also that section of that paper will come up, which is related to this selection. And then there is a button called connect. You can then connect it. And again, it works like a sticky note. But this time to distinguish the difference, it's purple color. We use a purple color. And then over here, you will be able to write your notes, like what are the similarities, what are the dissimilarities, what are your to-dos, where you see the gap, all of that you can put your notes over here, right? And you can again later on come back, click on this particular purple zone, and then this will again pop up. All of this will pop up together with all the other suggestions that are out there. And interestingly, if you add more papers, this can go up. this number 34, this can go up as you're adding more and more people, because which means what? You are able to now compare literally different sections of the paper so easily without having to remember anything, really. Because all, we are reading so much that we forget the details, right? At a broader level, we remember things, but at a very detailed level, it's impossible almost for most of us to remember all the details of all the papers that we are reading. So this is so easy way in which this is the feature that I love the most personally. This goes so easy to actually compare and connect papers all together, whatever is there in your reading list.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. Like after the 100th paper you read, and suddenly you don't even know where you are, right? So I think this feature is really useful. Yeah, to compare and
Right,
contrast. Okay, go
right.
ahead. Mm.
And finally, advanced miner, we are coming up with a lot more such advanced miners, but like similar research question. Show me papers that have the similar research question or same research question or similar approach or different approach or diverse approach, but the same research question. The approach, show me papers which, so essentially what will happen in the future, you can actually start with, okay, show me all the diverse approaches for the same research question. Then you can pick up one approach, and then you can later on say, RAx, show me all the papers that have the same approach or very similar approach. So you can actually navigate in a very interesting way. That is something that is going on currently. But just to start with, we have given you something called similar research question. So that's another, very to dig really in a very different way to dig deeper into, how you want to dig out those papers. Now, this is something that is completely absent. I've not seen it anywhere, like same research question, different approach, same question, different experiment design, same experiment design, but different data set. All of those combinations will be possible. That's what we are working on right now. And finally, Anita, I know you talked about, how to do it as a team. So the journal club. So essentially, you can easily form a virtual journal club together with your advisor or your lab mates and so on, very easily over here only while you're reading this paper. And there is something called this share button over here on the corner, as you can see, this red share button. So when you click on it, this will pop up, and by default, all your collaborators which are already existing across the projects will come up. You can put new collaborators too, and you can invite them when they get accepted. Now you can do something like this. You can share your critique, like whatever you're writing and all of that, what you think about this paper. And by default, we always give you some very basic questions that should be there in your mind
Yeah,
to in order to how to actually analyze this paper. And then
yeah,
you can start a thread, like a discussion thread over here.
exactly. Yeah, and I do know some research team, are keen on using this because there are some situation where
Mhm.
one supervisor have five supervisees, or
Exactly.
in a research team, right, or 10 collaborators. So this is a feature that a lot of people are quite interested to know because it gives us the flexibility of working together
Absolutely.
online. Yeah, which is so
Absolutely.
relevant.
And the good thing about this is that, especially in COVID times and even after that, not everybody you will not get the time always. Everybody is busy, right?
Yeah.
So in this way, what can happen, all the important papers that you really want to do it as a group study, everybody can take their own time and write their comments and so on and so forth, right? And that's all recorded. And because of the recording, the professor can now hand this recording over, this recorded thing, to the next student, the next new student who will come into the lab. So everything is all managed together in our lab plan. The professor will have all the administrative rights and everything to actually how to pass it over, and so that the knowledge that is getting created in RAx is not scattered and can be possible to the new students who are coming in, right?
I think this is a really great presentation with all the features that you mentioned. Do you have any other things so that we can actually share the poll or
Yeah, so I think this is a good time to share the poll. And
okay.
for the, we would love to have a 20-minute chat, sort of a coffee chat, e-coffee chat. We are not able to do it,
Mm,
so it's an online coffee chat with you.
mm,
And to understand all of you, how you are doing research and how we can help you, or to do a very one-on-one. These are one-on-one, even if you have any issues with RAx, and how RAx can actually be used better in your own use case or in your own situation, how we can actually make how you can use RAx in the best way. We can do all of those conversations. We can always book a Calendly thing, so you can just scan this over here, and you can book with us a 20-minute chat. And as you know, if you do that, then as a surprise token, we have a surprise token of appreciation. Not that you want it, but we would love to give some token of appreciation for you as well.
I think this is a very great opportunity for the members to take advantage of this,
Right,
because in order for RAX team to design a platform suitable for
right.
everyone, so definitely you guys need to understand, right, how do we use RAX for our research purpose. So I have actually put there, yeah, so that's the link to the poll, which later we can also put it and send it by email,
Right.
yeah. But for all the time that you spent just now, Suresh, I think most importantly is to start using Raxter, yeah,
Mhm.
and we have given the link for them to actually register, and have and do we have the free trial for 30 days
Yes,
right now? Yeah,
yes, we do.
yeah, yeah. And I think once you start using, and then you're able to see, and this webinar is also available as recording later, so while you are working you can also actually follow the steps that Dr. Suresh has given just now, yeah. Is
Yeah.
there any other things that you want to mention to the members?
Just stay with us and keep pinging us, keep bothering us. If you have any issues, let us know. If any suggestions that you want to do, let us know.
Mm,
And we will be more active in the Anita's community from now
yes,
onwards, and so that you can directly talk to us as well, and so on and so forth. Or if you have
exactly.
any issues, you can reach out to Anita as well.
Thank you so much. And also, I will send the webinar feedback, yeah, to the members who registered, so that
Yes.
we can then improve. And by the way, just to share with you, starting January to July, we are going to be involved in a Facebook program where we actually coach, we actually invite students to share what are their problems, that they want. So perhaps then we can work closely together. You can come over, yeah, as a webinar series like this, and then I'm sure there are many members who would like to try RAX as well. Yeah. So I think for now we don't have any question as of yet. However,
Okay.
yeah, if there are, I will definitely pass it to your team, and then we're gonna keep communicating so that we will have
Sure.
an active community of Rackster users from the SG. So thank you so much for your time today,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Suresh. It has been a
Thank
pleasure
you.
hosting you, and I think this has been among the wonderful webinar that I hosted, because simply of the steps, I can actually see.
Right.
And these are the pain problems for postgraduates, because they don't even know where they are while they are doing the reading and what to do next, right? And with RAX, I can see that actually once you understand how RAX work, it's actually
Right.
there's a flow that you can share with your supervisors. So thank you so much again.
Thank you.
I
Thank you.
hope to
My pleasure.
talk to you again later, yeah, and
Sure.
maybe next month, and we keep doing this, okay, and so that
Sure.
everybody else. Thank you so much. I'm going to end the
Thank you.
broadcast now
Thank you.
and share
Yep.
with you later the recording. Bye.
Bye
Thank you.
bye. Bye bye. Bye.